That side again is arguing for Buddhism is a way of life. Whenever you're ready, I'll start telling. Venerable Mahasangha, judges, family, and friends, my team and I stand in the firmest affirmation of the resolution. Resolved, Buddha is a way of life. Firstly, I would like to offer a definition of a way for clarity's sake. The typical pattern of behavior of a person or group. Now we must first discuss the burden of proof for each side. To win this debate, the team that should win be the team that proves they are more than right than the other. If Buddhism was 360 degrees, then the team that covers 360 degrees, or at least close, should be the team that wins. With that said, we strongly support that Buddhism, one of the most prominent doctrines of nirvana, or an absolute release of the chains of birth and death, is a way of life. Opposed to Buddhism as a philosophy is a study of affairs or a wise composure in dealing with problems. Buddhism is not just a way for dealing with problems, it is a way to live a happy life. The Buddha created the Eightfold Path to help us end suffering. The Eightfold Path is something that we use and practice at every moment possible. Contention 1. Buddhism is not only helps us but with the problems, rather it guides us on the right path because it helps us live a happy life. The method map is a tool used in Stephen's class to help us learn how to tackle everyday problems in a practical Buddhist way. The reason this is important is to learn how the method map is not a philosophy or something we just study. We physically and mentally use it so we can relieve stress. Contention 2. The Eightfold Path is crucial towards our lives, and we use it in a daily practice. Again, the definition of philosophy is the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. The keyword in this definition is study. When you study, you just learn and take in information, but when you apply it to your daily lives, that's when it becomes a way of life. A real example of someone taking in this information and using it is our friend Bo. For those of you who don't know who Bo is, he is a double murderer who lives in prison. But do you know what he's doing now? He's using the Dhamma and the Eightfold Path, and now he's even trying to write a book on meditation in prison. The Attadipa Sutta states, people, be islands into yourselves, be your own refuge, having no other. Let the Dhamma be an island and refuge to you, having no other. Those who are islands unto themselves should investigate to the very heart of things. This clearly tells us that we should not rely on anyone else but ourselves and the Dhamma. Just like Dr. Hawkins, even though he was a Catholic, he adopted Buddhism, a way of life, and ultimately achieved enlightenment. Thank you.
Thank you, Pasadu. Next up will be Kamila on the side of philosophy in his constructive speech, 3 minutes long. Good luck.
Distinguished guests, judges, family, and friends. My name is Kamila. Me and my friends Undwak Buddhism are here to debate that Buddhism is indeed a philosophy. My first contention is Buddhism is a search for truth and wisdom, and the definition of a philosophy is the rational investigation of the truth. Therefore, Buddhism is clearly a philosophy. Also, the Buddhist philosopher, as his nickname was Vibhajavadi, which meant the great analyzer. My second contention is we should figure out what we believe to be true by finding it out ourselves, not just accepting it. The Buddha once went to the village of Kethapur, and the villagers, the Kalamas, asked him why they should believe in Buddhism instead of any other religion. The Buddha stated that these religions might be good, but you must test them yourself, and you must see if they are true. You must question and examine them to find if they are true, not just accept what they are saying. This story has been known as the Kalama Sutra. My third contention is that Buddhism is based on logic, and logic involves searching for the truth, and philosophy is based on the search for truth. Buddhism then can be defined as a philosophy. A philosopher is a person who thinks on their own based on what they believe to be true. and they find out what they believe to be true by questioning and examining everything they hear. This is why many famous philosophers, such as Plato, Galileo, Socrates, and Aristotle, were persecuted because of what they thought challenged and questioned daily life. Additionally, the Buddha would like us to do this. He said he not only allows, but he encourages us to examine and question his beliefs so that we can fully understand what he is saying, examine it, and use it. Overall, Buddhism is clearly a philosophy that can be proven to be true if we examine it and question it. Thank you for your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful Vesak.
Alright, so now we will have crossfire for 3 minutes between Pascal and Camila. The two debaters can stand up or sit down. I recommend standing up. You can do either. So I will this time I will cut you off if either of you go off for 3 minutes, just to save time. 3 minutes. You whenever you're ready. Whenever one of you asks the first question, I'll start time.
Can you please tell us again the definition of a philosophy?
A philosophy is the rational investigation of the truth and principles of being, knowledge, or conduct.
Tell me, how would you investigate the truth?
We would investigate the truth by questioning what we believe to be true, not just accepting what is told to us. We would examine it, question it, and see if it is true in our eyes.
But to investigate, wouldn't you have to, for Buddhism, wouldn't you have to practice the Buddha's teachings? You have to practice his teachings?
Well, not only practice it, we have to see if it works. We have to see if it actually makes sense. We have to question it and keep questioning so that we understand it more fully.
But isn't that practicing? Isn't that a way of life?
Questioning is not practicing. Practicing is just saying it again and again, just because they tell you.
But to fully understand, but to fully investigate the truth, wouldn't you have to practice teachings?
Questioning again is not practicing. It's thinking of why does this make sense? What's wrong with it? Why is it like this? It's not the same as practice.
But investigating is not just thinking.
Can you read the question?
Investigating is not just thinking.
Investigating is thinking about why it doesn't work. What is wrong with it? Why you believe it's not true. And by answering those questions, it can help understand why it is true and why the Buddha believes that.
But isn't that actually doing a practice? Isn't that doing something? Isn't that a way of life?
Well, again, a practice is a repetition. It's doing it over and over again. And these questions are made you don't ask the same question again and again and again. You ask different questions at different times.
I don't want to go back and forth, but you said the Buddha has said himself that not only to read his suttas, but actually practice meditation and practices.
In meditation, we learn to concentrate. And we learn to concentrate so that we can find these questions and we can evaluate what we learn better and more better so that we can understand it fully.
But meditation is a way of life. It's not just, you don't just investigate meditation. You actually meditate in our class with our teacher, students.
Well, when you meditate, you learn to concentrate. And you can definitely use that in seeing anything that you, in questioning everything that you see in the Buddhist text. Like anything you see, so you can concentrate well and good enough, we can help find questions.
Isn't meditate?
Go ahead.
isn't meditation a practice? It's a practice. It's not just suttas in a book or like suttas the Buddha has taught. It's a practice.
Well, the Buddha once said, you should do your work, for the Tathagatas only teach you the way. This is the same thing because these sutras only teach you the way. You must do the work yourself and find out what you believe to be true of yourself.
Closing comment from Pasalim, and then we have time. Go ahead, finish your thought if you have one.
I would like to say that like the practices we do in class with Stephen, those are a way of life. We don't just do it once, it's actually a way of life. That's why we come here every Sunday, try to achieve enlightenment through these practices the Buddha has taught us.
Next time. Okay, next up. So Kavindra wants 1 minute of prep time, so I'll start the timer now. That would be 34 seconds of prep time. Whenever you're ready, Kavin. So it'll be 3-minute rebuttal speech by the side of Way of Life, spoken by Kavindra. Whenever you're ready.
Judges ready? Opponents ready?
Yes.
So as Kamila stated, he said that Buddhism is the search for knowledge, correct? So a search is in fact a way of life, because a philosophy, the definition of a philosophy is a study. So when you just study, you just gather information and you take it in. But when you actually put it into your lifestyle, that's when it becomes a way of life. So that argument should be dropped. And you said we should read and examine, the key word there, examine the text of the Buddha. Examining is not just looking through a book and just taking in the information. Examining is actually doing something, actually physically checking, studying and checking it. Finally, for your contention 3, you said Buddhism is logic? So logic would be examining and actually doing it, actually doing something about it. But that's not what a philosophy is. A philosophy is just a study. Thank you.
Alright, so our next rebuttalist will be Ulua, who will be giving us a rebuttal speech for 3 minutes on the side of philosophy. I'll start the timer for prep time. That was 27 seconds of prep time.
So good evening, everyone. So today I will rebuttal Kavindra's speech, his rebuttal to us. Buddhism, it follows an ethical order of logic. Logic is not just what you practice. Logic is a science dealing with the principles of valid reasoning. It brings no fresh experiences, but clarifies what everything really is. Say, the Buddha gave us instructions in his Dharma on what to do. That's what a philosophy is. Philosophy is an instruction. Philosophy is just kind of, say, a collection of knowledge.
in which it can give instruction, or it can just recite what is the truth, or what is actually there. Philosophy does not have to be a practice necessarily, but a practice comes later when you're trying to, I guess you could say, examining it, but there's more to it. You can't just follow random things you hear. Like in the Kalama Sutra, the Buddha said, you have to examine what is really there. Meaning you have to use your head and think, oh, is that really gonna work? Is that really something smart to do? Well, in practices, you can just like follow things. You kind of just do what you do. And in philosophy, it makes you think. It makes you say, before I do this, am I going to do this right? Well, in practice, you do it, and then you think, oh wait, I shouldn't have done that. But wouldn't it be better to think before you do something? Where in philosophy, you think before you do something, right? And the Buddha also said that the Tathagatas weren't like teachers. They didn't do things for you. They gave you instructions. They gave you steps to take. They didn't tell you, go actually do this. They said, here are steps for you to follow if you want to obtain enlightenment or find the truth. And also to say that philosophy comes from the root words philo, which means love, and sophi, which means wisdom. It is the love of wisdom. That is what Buddhism is all about. Love of wisdom and searching for the truth. And the Buddha found his truth through even though he did find it through meditation, that was his ultimate goal, finding the truth. And that's what he expresses in his Dharma, how to find the truth, which is, of course, a philosophy.
Thank you, Muap. Next we have crossfire between Kavindra and Muap for 3 minutes. Whenever either of you ask the first question, I will begin time.
So you said Buddhism requires logic, yes? Correct?
Yes.
Well, logic is using your mind and actually doing something, correct?
Well, there is a difference between doing something as a practice and using your brain to do something. A practice consists of actually like almost a repetitive thing, where every day you do something, like every day you wake up and you brush your teeth. That's a practice. Thinking is more of just, hey, is this right? Hey, is this wrong?
Well, the debate isn't about a practice, it's about a way of life. A way of life isn't always the same thing. It changes and it fluctuates at different moments. Like you're not this short at one time and this tall at the same height.
A way of life consists basically of practices of what you do every day. Like a way of life does not necessarily have to be true. Like before, say like
a way of life isn't always a practice. A practice. You said a practice is always the same, but that's not true.
A practice can change, but it is repeated. It's not. It doesn't change every single time. And when you said before about a way of life, sometimes, like, say there's a family, and like long time ago, people used to think the earth was flat, but it wasn't. But those who questioned it was considered wrong. That was a practice, a way of life, when people believed the earth was flat.
Well, you're saying that we actually have to examine and not just follow what other people say, correct?
Yes, that's what we
said. Yes, and that's exactly what a way of life is. It's examining for yourself and not just thinking about it. It's actually going and doing it.
Yes, but you don't have to do it. It's like someone tells you.
You can't just think about it. How will you know
to go jump off
know it's true if you don't do it?
Well, what if someone tells you to go jump off a bridge, but you aren't exactly sure what will happen? Do you jump off a bridge and then later think, hey, I shouldn't have done that? Or do you think before, hey, I could die before I jump off a bridge?
Well, that's irrelevant. I mean,
it's not irrelevant.
We're not talking about jumping off bridges, are we? We're talking about Buddhism.
Yes, Buddhism tells you to examine things before you do it. That's what philosophy does. Philosophy examines things.
Well, yeah, but a way of life is actually taking that and using it in your daily life.
But before you use it, you have to know what is right.
So you're saying that Buddhism is a way of life, though, because we actually have to do it after we think about it.
Well, before you do it, Buddhism are steps.
No. That was not my question, was it? My question was, you are saying that Buddhism is a way of life because after we think about it, we actually do it. Correct?
No. No.
Correct.
No.
Yes.
No, because
What?
That is time. We don't need to cut off this banter, but that is time with 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Would any of you like some prep time, or you're good? Well, yeah, you're good. You're gonna have prep time.
Hả? Mau ketemu? Mau ketemu? Babe. දෝනිල ඩිබේට් එකක් තියෙනවනේ එතන ඉන්නේ ඉස්සරහා වාඩි වෙලා. ඔය කොහෙද ඉන්නේ?
2 minutes. Team, you guys have 3 seconds of prep time left. This team have only used 27 seconds, so you have 1 minute 32 seconds remaining. So let's begin. The summary speech is 2 minutes once again. Yeah.
Just like my teammates have argued, Buddhism is a way of life. First and foremost, the main goal of Buddhism is to further oneself spiritually and attain the ultimate goal, which is enlightenment. To achieve this goal, we have to practice all the teachings of the Buddha gave to us. These include the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Four Sublime States, and the 10 Fetters. Without these practices, we cannot achieve enlightenment. Not just that, but there have been people who are not Buddhists who use Buddhism in their daily lives as well. Phil Jackson used Buddhism to take the Lakers and win a bunch of championships. He wasn't never a Buddhist, but he used those ideas. And even Bill Clinton had used them to become a president. He had a monk assistant and advise him to make presidential decisions. There have been all these famous people who have used it in their daily life. They didn't use it as a philosophy, they practiced it and they used it, not just as, they didn't think of it as ideas. We shouldn't just think of these as ideas, these are how you live your life. A philosophy is a way for you to deal with your problems. Buddhism is not just for you to deal with your problems, it's how you achieve enlightenment, to become happy. That's the whole point of Buddhism, to reach happiness, to be happy. It's not just to deal with your problems, it's not just to study, to find out, it's more than the truth, it's to be happy.
Thank you. Alright, now we have Tisun arguing for 2 minutes. for a summary speech.
My name is Disur and I'll give a summary speech right now. Buddhism is a philosophy. Going back to the roots of philosophy, philo means love and sophy means knowledge. The Buddha was a philosopher, as Kamila said, but also from what the Buddha taught, he attributed all his realization, attainments, and achievements to human endeavor and human intelligence. Well, in our Sunday class, with Stephen, we analyze things. We take them apart. We use it to solve our problems. We use this technique of letting go. We would meditate, and we would really get into our emotions. Each week, we would focus on a new emotion, like greed, and then we would eliminate an experience we have. That way, Buddhism is a philosophy. Well, that's how me and my Sunday school friends, we all use it. That's how we use it. And from Thus We Heard by Dr. Stephen Wong and Bhante Piyananda, it says, from the chapter of Truth or Heresy, it says, use your own judgment. Scripture is only an aid, not a substitute for thinking. And going back to Buddhism being a logic, it also relates to our class, like I mentioned right now. Logic, we take it apart, we analyze it.
Thank you, Disum. Next, we will have our grand crossfire for, I believe, 2 minutes. Yeah. No, I'm sorry, 3 minutes. We'll have our grand crossfire for our judges. Again, this is not our speech. All 6 of our speakers will be asking questions and arguing against each other in a grand cross. You guys can decide if you want to sit or stand, but both sides have to do either. Stand? Okay. So I will start the timer whenever the first person speaks.
I would like to ask you guys a question. What is daily life? Like, what is your point of view of what is the definition of a daily life? Kind of like, what is the practice of daily life?
Well, what I do, or in the majority of the people?
Like, in the majority, what do you mean by daily life? Do you just mean like something you do every day?
No, it's we're talking about Buddhism being a daily practice. So
what is a daily practice is what I'm asking you.
A daily practice is something that you do to help you to achieve enlightenment, I guess, for Buddhism.
Wait, but a daily practice doesn't just have to be Buddhist.
I mean, we're talking in a Buddhist perspective here. So
yes, but you still didn't answer my question of what is a daily practice.
Okay, so a daily practice is something that we do on a daily basis that helps us achieve something greater than that.
Doesn't necessarily have to achieve something greater?
Not exactly, but it usually does.
Say, Buddhism is steps, like I said before, instructions given by the Buddhas, as he said.
Yes, but instructions are usually just on pen and paper. But actually taking those instructions and using them in your daily life, that is when it becomes a daily practice.
The Dharma were instructions, which means Buddhism.
Yes, but
instructions.
Did the Buddha ever say just read it and then be done with it? No, he said read it and actually go into your life and use it.
Yes, but you need to analyze it first.
Yes, but so you're still
So
saying
you just agreed that you need to analyze it, you need to look deeper into it, like what philosophers do.
Yes, but you also said that after we analyze it, we must actually use it in our daily life. So
yes, but that's a small proportion. Like most of the time we spend trying to figure out what we do before we actually do it. Like, okay, say, for example, say like you state steps, right? So you have steps, like in school you learn, and then eventually you take it to life. But before you take it to life, you learn. Those learning is the Dharma.
yes, but actually taking it in and using it is when.
But that using it is not Dharma. You're expressing Dharma, but you're not.
Well, did the Buddha ever say just read it and be done with it? He said actually use it, didn't he?
Actually, that's
exactly what he didn't say. He said to first analyze it and question it and examine it before you use it in any type of
Well,
situation.
analyzing and questioning it is actually doing something. It's not just having it in your brain.
Exactly. And philosophy is exactly that. Philosophers such as Aristotle, Galileo, these people were persecuted
That's time. Finish your thought though. Go ahead.
because what they thought was very radical, and they thought this because they questioned everything, even what many people thought as basic knowledge.
It's time. 3 seconds. Sorry. You want those 3 seconds? Got you. Now you're good. 3 seconds. Final focus, yes. 2 minutes on either side. No more crossfire. This will wrap up the debate after both sides have their final focus. Once again, 2 minutes. Thank you.
Judges, my opponent stated that we must learn, then actually take it. And yes, that's true. But the Buddha never said just take in my information. He said actually use it in your daily practices. Correct? Yes. And then Buddhism stated in his rebuttal speech that in class we use the technique of letting go. Letting go is finding something within you that is a burden and physically letting go of it. Taking it apart isn't doing it in like, it isn't just thinking about it, it's actually doing it. And you also said don't follow what other people say. Correct. Don't the Buddha always said always examine it for yourself. Never take someone else's word for it. So
Thank you. We'll have our next final focus. Luck, you have 2 minutes. You do have prep time if you want to use it.
So you said that the Dharma, like the Buddha said, follow my instructions and then take it to life. His instructions were the Dharma, right? Right? So this Dharma is what Buddhism mainly is, his instructions. That's what philosophy is. Instructions is something you take as steps. Is that right? Even though Buddhism still says follow, but there is something before that. A majority of Buddhism is telling you what to do, not actually doing it, but what to do. And then the doing it is on your own. It's not Buddhist.